This is Talking Drupal, a weekly chat about web design and development by a group of guys with one thing in common. We love Drupal. Recorded live on Wednesday afternoons in a Google Hangout. Visit us at talkingdrupal.com. This is episode 52, June 4th, 2014, and we are live, or some of us are live, from DrupalCon. So, which two are live and which two are not? Well, I guess we're all live.
It's like Sesame Street, trying to figure out two of these things are not like the other.
Right, and the two sitting side by side are in Austin, Texas at DrupalCon now, John and Jason.
Yep.
And you're about an hour behind us. You guys look like you got a good night's sleep.
That's totally a lie. We're putting on an act right now.
No, there's just been enough coffee and time for the hangover to subside.
One of us was hangover.
So joining us as usual from a different location, we have Jason Palmental. Hey, Jason.
Hey there. It's been going great so far. I gave my session yesterday at the end of the day at 5, and I was pleased to see that we actually still had a pretty full room. I think by 5 o'clock, if I didn't have a session to go to, I would have been checked out looking for the beer line already. It's a pretty full day.
Yeah, it's a tough spot to be in. That spot gets worse as the week goes on, too.
Oh yeah, no. Day one it was good, but they've been strategic about who they have speaking in those slots, and it's been working. It's working to keep people around.
That's great. And with sitting to his right, is that your right? Is John Picozzi from Oomph.
Hello, everybody out there in podcast land. Austin's been great. It's hot here. It's like 93 every day. And Jason really did rock it last night. So it's been a good time so far.
So who's got the right side of the bed and who's got the left side?
Oh, that's cute. Jason's actually staying in a very nice hotel, the Driscoll, which is historic. Next time to Austin, I'm gonna look into an upgrade.
Yeah, they had pretty good deals on Orbitz. That's the only reason I got a nice place to stay. But it's great. It's right on 6th, so it's right in the middle of the area where the conference and all the bars and bands are playing and all kinds of stuff. So it's very cool. In the middle of the weird, as it is.
Oh, great.
Side note is the Hampton Inn is very nice, too.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
And joining us also from the hottest spot in Worcester, Massachusetts.
Good afternoon. How you guys doing? Just a little jealous. I was hoping this was going to be the year I get to go to DrupalCon, but definitely looking forward to hearing how it's going and meeting with some people, some returning guests, and seeing what highlights I should check out.
Great. So before we go any further, I'm Stephen Cross, and this week's show, since Jason and John are there, we're going to try to pull a few guests in. It also is lunchtime, so I'm not sure if we're going to get anyone to stop in and say hi. We may. But we figured we'd just put a short show together and get a quick update for what was going on there, get a little feedback, because it's still early in the conference. It's only, officially kind of day 1, or is it officially day 2?
Day 2.
Yeah, it's midway through day 2, although on Monday they also had a bunch of training days, training sessions, as well as community summit. So that was, there actually has been stuff going on since Sunday.
Wow, that's great. So I'm most interested to hear the feedback that you have so far on the keynotes that you've seen. And first, let's start with Dries.
Well, as the Dries note, as it's affectionately known, was, I think, really pretty fascinating. I think I figured this is either my 7th or 8th DrupalCon that I've gone to, and so I mean he's always the keynote on the opening day, and watching the arc of sort of where Drupal is and where it's headed has been pretty fascinating. And so we found out a lot about Drupal 8, where things are now, and as of yesterday, there were only 14 beta blocking bugs left to squash. There were fewer than 100 critical issues that are known that stand between beta and release candidate, so that pace has been good. They're really hoping the sprint day on Friday will provide a lot of much-needed momentum to sort out some of the things remaining to get a beta out. But it's unfortunately too soon to really be able to say what kind of timelines on that.
So I would imagine the 14 that are left because they're not someone just sort of jumping in and doing something quickly.
I think you're probably right.
They're grammatical errors. They're just, you know, very clear. I will say there is motivation attached to those 14 issues. Dries did promise in his keynote ice cream cones for everyone if we got those solved before Friday. So anybody that's at DrupalCon and out there and want to help out, I recommend doing it. I love ice cream.
So it doesn't sound like Dries was super motivated to finish it, because he would have offered an open bar maybe.
Yeah, there are those going on every night, so okay. That's kind of the easy sell.
Yeah, you know what?
We'll get to the party roundup in just a little bit.
Nobody's offering free ice cream.
Okay. John, are you trying to tell me that you're going to be going to those sprints and, you know, doing your share? Is that what that sounds like?
I wish I could. I'm flying out Friday morning, bright and early, so I'm going to live vicariously through Jason on that one.
And clearly without ice cream too.
I'm taking John's and eating it.
So, what other insights did he offer in his talk? Was it mostly about Drupal 8 and where Drupal's going, and were any other surprising moments?
There's actually a great comparison he made between Drupal and photography, and how photography has evolved, and how Drupal is evolving, and how Drupal 8 is going to be kind of the most enterprise-centric version of Drupal. And I thought that comparison was really awesome.
Well, the thing that was so striking about that is if you look at the origins of the camera and the number of people and steps that there were between taking a photo, even being able to take the photo in the first place, and then actually having a processed image at the end of it, there's like 19 steps involved and a whole bunch of people. And you fast forward to something like a Polaroid camera, and it's literally this one-step process. So and that was in Kodak's or Polaroid's advertising with that was fantastic. It was just really simple. You push the button, we'll do the rest. And when you look at all of the steps that go into a website, and all of the steps there that can be automated, taken out, done with better, more open frameworks, that's really where Drupal has been headed to help in this assembled web of services to help eliminate a lot of those steps between the idea and the creation of content and having a website at the other end that can be consumed. And if you think about our own careers and the number of steps that used to be involved in creating content and getting that content on the web, it was a whole lot of manual steps. So seeing that change has been pretty interesting, and I think that it is this sort of culmination of all of these tools developing over the years, and he's characterizing it as the assembled web. And then looking forward, what might be next once you have all of these tools is actually being able to focus on the experience. And I think that's where he feels we're moving into the experience web. And sort of with all these tools being so common, then you can really start focusing on all of the other things that are enabled by having such a strong foundation. I think that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Sounds that's an interesting comparison, and it's funny how as you simplify the upfront stuff, the lower end barrier to entry, you can specialize more in the back end. You can specialize more in user experience. You can specialize more on design schemas and specialize more in building those tools. As we've gotten further, we've built things like Compass and SAS have been built to help ease that process, and it's just resulted in better quality sites.
Well, that's actually I'm glad that you brought that up, Nick, because that's one of the things that was behind the decision to incorporate Symfony and Twig into Drupal 8 was standardizing on larger projects that help solve these kinds of problems, and not only lean on the solidity of those technologies, but also broaden the base of people who can actually get involved in developing for and using Drupal. And with the number of modules that have been built into core, I still think it's actually a great tool for small shops and freelancers to still be able to do a tremendous amount without having to really get into writing a lot of code. So I think it's actually helped both ends of the market, so to speak, the small shops and the enterprise, tremendously.
Another topic that you kind of covered.
I just want to add on something to there, John. I think I go a step beyond from my experience with 8, is that I think the smaller shops and the people who want to do less coding are in a better position. Not just they can still do what they did before. It seems like they can actually do more than they could before.
I agree. I agree with you. I think you're absolutely right.
One underlying theme in his keynote that he mentioned early, mentioned a little bit later on, even with his intro, the CEO of Black Mesh actually introduced him, Dries, and the theme there was really getting more larger companies to hire core contributors and people to specifically work on Drupal within these companies. And Black Mesh actually just did that.
They have a full-time community liaison now.
Yep. And they're, I want to say it was Chapter 3.
Well, Chapter 3 always has had a lot of core contributors that work there.
There was somebody that just hired somebody, and it was like one of their first kind of Drupal-only employees, which was interesting. And I think a lot more larger companies are going to, and for that matter, smaller companies could do the same thing.
Dries had posted a blog post. It was probably about a month ago. It was entitled "The Investment Case for Employing a Drupal Core Contributor," and he talks about Chapter 3 in that post, and basically sets forth the case for why this makes sense for a large company to do that, or any company to do that, for that matter.
Yeah, so he actually hit on that a little bit during his keynote, which I thought was very interesting.
I think one of the other things that stuck out for me was actually another aspect of Drupal 8 and what's core to it that I think is maybe not something we would necessarily think about as being such a good thing, but the notion of headless Drupal. Drupal 8 has RESTful APIs built into it so thoroughly that it's actually, there was even a session this morning about actually creating a theme that uses exclusively RESTful API calls to pull the content out, and actually doesn't use Drupal to produce the front end at all, but it's actually done in Angular. And so there's this notion of being able to use Drupal for something that it's really great for in content modeling and building up these relationships and content editing, but then having it not necessarily be the front end that people interact with. So there's no reason not to use Drupal. And so this was another one of his big themes, were all of these fractures in the open web with Facebook and the way Google works and the way the way LinkedIn works, where they have their own garden of content. And if you want your content to get there, it's got to go through these APIs. And so the ability to create content in Drupal, but have it be ingestible into these other systems and environments is incredibly powerful. And it's really the only platform out there right now that has it so thoroughly baked in that you can easily create any view in Drupal 8 and actually make it something that can output JSON natively and take that content and push it through the API really anywhere.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of stuff in Drupal 8 that I'm really excited for, but most of the stuff in Drupal 8 that I'm excited for is Drupal-specific stuff. I'm excited for CMI because, I mean, as a Drupaler, having to push stuff live or to stage is such a pain in the ass. I'm excited for Twig because I love to get rid of the templating that we've grown to love to hate in Drupal 7 and previous versions.
Yeah.
But recently, as we spoke a little bit about last week, I've been digging into REST. That is now the #1 thing that I'm most excited about in Drupal 8. Because what you just said, the ability to just use Drupal as a source, or you can use it the other way too. That's the current project I'm working on. Drupal's kind of the one is the client. It's the one that's ingesting the information. But the ability to just pass information back and forth that's authenticated in a programmatic way is extremely powerful. And I think that we're just starting to see like the use cases for that. It's like mobile. You know, mobile, people kind of had some ideas about it, but until it became everyday, people didn't really start seeing the potential. And I think REST kind of gives the same.
Well, and you know, there's an interesting. We had a conversation with Kevin O'Leary, the director of design at Acquia, and the UX lead behind the Spark initiative that has become part of Drupal 8. And we were talking about content modeling and content editing, and that's actually an area where there's a huge amount of potential. So there are a lot of issues with content entry and mobile that could be solved a lot more easily by having a native client-side editing environment that is then pushing data through REST calls in and out of Drupal. And so you can't really get away from the UI controls that are imposed on the mobile device that end up getting in the way of trying to edit content within the system. So that's actually a tremendous amount of potential there to leverage it for the editing experience and the content creation experience.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, that's you know, I think it's like with responsive design. I don't even think we know how much we can do until it's there, and it's something that we can play with, and then the opportunities just start to multiply.
So tell us about there was a keynote today as well.
Yeah.
Erin Peterson.
Erin Peterson, who I mean, she's had a pretty amazing career already, but she's involved in some really incredibly interesting stuff. And I think some of the key things. I mean, she manages a lot of engineering teams. Hey, Todd. Can we get you to say hello to Talking Drupal?
Her keynote was basically.
Say hello?
Say hello.
Come on, have a seat.
Well, we have one of our first guests.
Just lassoed our first guest.
Oh, hello.
So, everybody on
Where do I
Talking
speak?
Drupal, just right to the camera there.
Hello, everybody. I'm Todd. I'm with.
And we have Todd to thank and Four Kitchens for some of the most entertaining after conference stuff, as well as some great presentations that we've seen so far. But
Thank you very much.
it has
Very
made
nice of
for
you.
a fantastic experience here so far.
So Todd, what has been the most interesting thing for you so far at DrupalCon?
Well, these days I mainly hang out at the booth. So I'd say watching people dodge giant Jenga blocks as they fall, that's been pretty entertaining. No, I've been spending most of the conference talking about like Scrum-related stuff like project management and account management and how people estimate projects and things like that. So I'd say the most interesting takeaway is that it seems every vendor I've talked to now, everybody who does client services is doing Agile, and there are maybe, I don't know, 5% of people that I've seen in audiences and people I've spoken to that are still doing waterfall or, in many cases, nothing, which is the worst possible kind of project management, no project management. Yeah, I'd say that's an interesting takeaway. That's a big change over the past 6 years since we started doing it. It used to be, you know, we were part of a tiny little cool club, and now almost everybody is doing it.
Awesome. Well, that is pretty great stuff, and looking forward to more sessions from you guys later this week.
Yeah. Well, I'm doing a thing tomorrow during lunch. It's offsite. It's at the Omni Hotel. I don't know if we're going to broadcast it. We'll record it and put it up later, but we're going to talk about the future of the CMS and this discussion of like the decoupled model and creating front ends in Node.js and backbone.
Right, we were just talking about that.
Oh, excellent, yeah. So we're going to do a kind of a panel and just a conversation about how would that work? Is that a good idea? What are the pitfalls? There are many instances where you should just definitely continue to build a site entirely in Drupal, for sure. But for really like large or complicated projects or like enterprise projects, things like that, it's seeming to make more and more sense to not use Drupal's presentation layer and instead use it for really good content management as an API to insert and pull out content and functionality and things like that. Just because most organizations, big organizations, when they're considering like a Drupal 6 to 7 migration or 7 to 8 or something like that, that's an entire site rebuild. There's really no way around it. And when you have your front and your back end in lockstep, you're moving this huge piece of infrastructure forward. But if you have your front end decoupled, you can just move the back end forward and upgrade from Drupal 7 to 8. Or if you want to iterate more on the front end, you can constantly be chugging away at that. And it's relatively lightweight, using more lightweight templating engines and just relying on good structured content as it exists in Drupal and as it's structured by Drupal and enforced by Drupal to create a really good front end experience, not just on the web, but on all possible front ends.
Right.
Because currently, you know, Drupal's front end layer is just the web. There isn't a front end layer for native apps or smart TVs and you know screen readers and there's a little bit of feed stuff in there now, but I mean every way that somebody pulls content out of a web service is a front end, and that's where everything's moving. And currently, like if you're relying on Drupal to do all of that, all you're getting is the web. You're missing out on native and all of that stuff.
Would you guys say that this decoupling is a hot topic there this week?
Which is a hot topic. I didn't
just
get
that decoupling notion, yeah. I
mean, yeah, that's been big for a
definitely.
couple of months at least, but certainly around the hallways here, a lot of people are talking about it.
Yeah, because I know that Lullabot's talked about that before. There was a session this morning that I mentioned previously on doing a front end using Angular and REST rather than traditional theme. Dries mentioned it, obviously, in his keynote. I think, yeah, that's playing to where its greatest strengths are and allowing it to play in this sort of more interconnected service level exchange of content is enormously important.
And would you guys think that's to attract more corporations into using Drupal as a backend framework, as opposed to like the display model for their whole website?
Well, I think what it allows for things to be done in pieces. I mean, I think that you get that what you just said about that lockstep between the front end and the back end. I mean, there are some examples of sites and companies doing things where they'll have content in 6 and user-generated content in 7 or some other service, and this just allows them to take that further and bring Drupal in an area where it makes sense without having to get this whole vendor buy-in essentially on the whole thing.
Yeah, it allows you to better prioritize your budgets because I don't think it's accurate to say that it's cheaper to decouple it so that you can just upgrade the back end or iterate on the front end differently. It's just you're putting your money, you're spending your money in different order. Right. So rather than spending all of your money all at once to do a site redesign and an upgrade, you say like, well, I just want to do a migration from 7 to 8, and then I'll do 2 small front-end improvements or 1 big overhaul a year later. So I don't think it actually, like a lot of people think like, well, it might save money. I don't know if it'll save money, but it allows you to spend it at a slower rate. You'll still need, if you have a big site, you're still going to spend big site dollars to do all the work you need to do. But it allows you to say like, I want to make improvements to our structured content and do security updates and upgrade to the latest version of Drupal now, and then in a year we can redo the front end.
Right. Is it really about people spending money, or is it really more about building flexibility?
It's both. I mean, so when you're talking to a business, you have to make kind of a business case, and they're going to want to know the money aspect of it for sure. I think it's going to be a better user experience to treat a content management system as just that, a content management system, and have multiple front ends that can use that content, broadcast that content or whatever in the best context for that user and that experience. So rather than, say, building a really great website and then having a native application on a device of some sort that is just a wrapper around the website, everything is now hinging on the website, right? So the website has to deliver markup in ways that's going to work for native apps and for the web and for web apps and who knows what else. So rather than do that, let's just figure out what you're trying to do as an organization or as a business or as a site, focus entirely on that, and then make really good native app experiences that tie to it, or really good Google Glass experiences or feeds, or if you're using screen readers or assistive devices, making sure that those can integrate well with your content, and that you're not having to rely on a screen reader to parse through markup to get at the content, which is just silly. Like there's a huge accessibility aspect to this whole argument too that really isn't brought up a lot, but that's really, really key. Cool. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for stopping in.
Thanks for the good questions. That was awesome. All right.
Appreciate you.
I'll be in the booth.
Yeah. Awesome. So if you're here at DrupalCon, visit the Four Kitchens booth. They've got games, they've got T-shirts, stickers, and you can talk more with Todd. So we were talking about the keynote.
Today's keynote. Yes, Erin Peterson. Yeah, I was trying to pull up the bio notes that I had found on her, but she's involved in so many things.
What was the topic of her discussion? What was the...
So her topic was about diversity in open source software. Sleep's catching up with me. And how, building a diverse team can really help move your open source project forward. And not only diversity as far as race, religion, that sort of thing, but diversity as far as men versus women, and
in really almost any way that you can slice it. I mean, whether it's educational background, gender, ethnicity, likening it to a forest. A forest of only one kind of tree will never flourish, but a complex system of lots of different species is something that's hugely sustainable. So, and there was lots of great data to back it up too.
Yeah, definitely.
I'd be interested in knowing, seeing both of those keynotes if they were going to be online anytime soon.
Oh yeah, actually that's something worth noting, that the keynotes were streamed live, and even by this morning, all of the sessions from yesterday are recorded and live. So you can actually find all of them on the DrupalCon website. Even the ones at the end of the day were live by this morning. It's fantastic. They're doing a great job.
That's funny because I was looking for them and didn't see them. I wonder if they're hidden somewhere.
Another method for finding them you could use is going to YouTube and just drop it in the search.
Okay. They're all posted
DrupalCon Austin 2014.
All right, great.
And they'll all come right up.
So one of the things that was really fantastic, and you have to look for this in Erin's slides, Google has posted the ethnic and gender breakdown of their whole workforce, and they've also posted that next to industry norms, or averages rather, and it was really interesting to see. Their workforce is 30% women, 70% men, and then they have lots of other breakdowns. And I think on the surface of it, they really took a hit for that in public, saying they're not doing enough for gender equality. But I think that what you have to do is look at that in context, and their stats are nearly double the industry norm for the tech industry. So, I mean, they're actually doing a pretty good job. And while, there's always more work to do, I think what's comforting is to know that the numbers for the 3,000 or so attendees here is about 20% women. So, I mean, again, obviously room for improvement, but still significantly above average for open source software and for tech stuff in general. So it is comforting to see a fairly diverse audience here, and diverse not just in tattoos and not, or beards and not, but actually seeing a nice variety of people. And that's actually why we positioned the camera where we did, because we wanted people to actually be able to see it. So as everyone's kind of wandering by, you see a pretty good variety, I think.
Interesting. Well, I think you guys are probably coming up to the time that you have to run. Am I correct?
Yeah, it's getting a little noisier up here.
Actually, the noise hasn't been too bad yet, but I think sessions start at 1. So let's just touch on quickly some of the events after the conference that you've attended and things like that you've done.
Yeah, so as we mentioned, last night's barbecue event by Four Kitchens was great. Four Kitchens treated us to a wonderful barbecue here in Austin.
At Franklin's, the legendary barbecue joint over on the East End.
And, yeah, it was a good time. Great people, great conversations. From there, we went over to the Phase 2 party, which was at the Container Bar. Made me feel
big props to Snug Ugg for Sam Richard for getting us some wristbands so we could get into the party. So gotta make sure we give props there.
Yeah, so it was at the Container Bar, which slightly resembles the Oomph offices in Providence. It's a container building turned into a bar. Very cool spot. Felt like I was at home.
Right.
So tonight we're looking forward to the Lullaby party over at the Handlebar, I think, which is right down the street. And yeah, another great night of networking and fun.
And we can't forget starting it off, the first night that we were here, with a movie theater full of Drupal geeks all watching Office Space at the Alamo Draft House, also courtesy of Four Kitchens. That was really pretty amazing.
Must have been fun, yeah.
It was just a fun movie.
It's a good movie.
It's funny because a lot of the presentations and even some of the keynotes have been referencing Office Space all week long. So it's
good contextual content placement.
Definitely.
Well, that's great. So I'm looking forward to our next week's show, number 53, which will give you guys a few days back from the conference, and we can maybe do a thorough walkthrough of what some of the key themes were and some of the key sessions were for you, and looking forward to that.
As our way, it's been a great 2 days or 1.5 days, and I look forward to the next 1.5, and then recapping it all next week.
Yeah, I really can't wait to actually talk more about Twig and the changes in the theming layer. I started playing around with creating a D8 theme this morning and looking at converting Beep Edition, and I'm really excited with the possibilities there. There's some really important things that they've done in enabling preserving the data much later in the process of the page creation. So it actually gives you a huge amount of flexibility in how the markup comes together and what you want to do with it. So yeah, there's going to be just a ton of good stuff to talk about. We're really excited, and we're only halfway through.
Excellent. Have you guys run into any listeners there?
We have actually. We've seen a few. Had some really nice feedback on it so far. And I know John's planning on going to a podcaster session later on today, so make lots more good connections with the rest of the Drupal podcasting world.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, if you're listening and you're here at DrupalCon, there's a DrupalCon or Drupal podcasters bats of a feather because we're in Austin.
That's right.
So that's at 5. Check it out. I'll be there. Say hi.
Great. Yeah, I'd be interested to know if there's any podcasts out there that I'm not aware of.
Do you listen to the Drupal Easy podcast?
Yes. Yep.
All right. I'll get a list and I'll send it back to you.
Yeah. I'd be interested to know who else is out there that we haven't heard of. Great. Nick, do you have anything else you want to check with these guys on?
No, I'm just looking forward to hearing, how the rest of the keynotes go and what I should watch as they go live. Are they recording the bats of a feather? Although I'm not sure bats have feathers.
No, I don't think they are, unfortunately.
I think that podcast one would be interesting, but I'll be checking out some sessions.
We can podcast the podcasting talk.
Yeah, let's turn it into a Google Hangout.
Not a bad idea.
Might make sense.
I'll let you guys
there's
know
more and more.
I can get that going.
More and more people going by in the background.
Yeah, we got everybody filling in.
Right, I think we're gonna wrap this show. Are there any announcements? Let's see. In our notes, we don't have any announcements. We do have a Providence Drupal meetup next Wednesday. That's May 11th. That would be at the Founders League. Basically, networking starts at 6, and presentation starts at 7, I believe.
I think it'll be June 11th, though.
What did I say?
May 11th.
May? All right. June. Okay.
It's definitely June 11th. Jason and I will be doing a recap of some of our favorite DrupalCon sessions and answering any DrupalCon questions you may have. So, as always, if you're in the Providence area, stop on by. We'd love to see you.
The following week in Las Vegas, Nevada, I'll be teaching a workshop in responsive design and another talk on typography. So if any listeners are going there, then please stop by and say hello. Actually, I got one other person to say hi. Kay Van Valkenburg is going to sit right on this chair and say hello to everyone before we sign off.
Oh, excellent. I made it just in time? Is that the
did.
word? Just
You
saw
did.
your tweet.
Perfect.
How you doing,
How's it going,
Kate?
guys?
How's it going?
Hey, Nick. I can almost hear you.
It's a bit quiet.
I know, but wanted to at least get a chance to pull you in and say hello.
Yeah, well, thanks. It's
So-
cool to see people here.
What have you been liking about DrupalCon so far?
Well, mentorship is, this is the place that is happening. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's so that's like really quickly this whole the core mentorship program.
Right.
You want to give everybody just a super quick overview of that?
Absolutely.
That's pretty fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. So huge kudos to XJM and YesCT for really formalizing something that I think the Drupal community has been pretty strong at. I think a lot of people who have been in the community for a little while remember their first DrupalCon, their first sprint, and having people help them identify ways that they can use their skills to further the Drupal project. So XJM kicked this project, this kind of formalization off, and YesCT, Kathy Fays, has been running with it. And there's an awful lot of opportunity to really quickly hone in on something that you can get going on to get more familiarity with not only Drupal 8, but also with some of the best practices and best tools that are being used by the community, and sit side by side with people who have been doing it for quite a while. If you're already very experienced, then it's a great way of moving things, the higher velocity, kind of completion of tasks just because you're able to turn to each other and talk about it when you need to. And if you haven't experienced it before, getting help anytime that you're stuck, getting opportunities to struggle with things that are appropriate and not having to worry so much about the things that aren't appropriate to struggle with.
Right.
It's pretty cool. Look for people with yellow shirts if you're here on site. I'm not wearing mine right now, but yeah.
Awesome, but and I think that's maybe a topic that we should bring back for a later show, because I think that onboarding and getting into the process of really contributing to the Drupal community, I think is still intimidating for a lot of people. Even though I've been in the Drupal community for a long time, I still am hesitant about that sometimes. So, I think you can never do too much, I think, to help people make that contribution and start to make this project their own. So yeah. I think that'd be a great one for us to bring back.
And really, as a DrupalCon first-timer, the perception of it being hard to contribute and the community being hard to approach is just that. It's a misconception. There are many people that I don't know that I've started conversations with, and it's been great. It's really been an awesome experience, and I look forward to it for the next 2 to 3 days.
That said, really quickly, if you are just getting started, brace yourself for a little bit of an uphill climb, but it's totally going to be worth it. Sure. Like a lot of uphill climbs are. When somebody's they're saying it's worth getting through this, they're totally right. But yeah, it will take a little bit to get up to speed for the stuff that you really want to do.
Yep.
And we're there to help with that. Cool. Hey, really nice chatting with you guys.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
All right. Catch you guys later. See you next.
See ya.
See cow. Well, I guess that pretty much wraps it up on our end.
All right, great. I think that's a wrap for us. We'll just we will talk to everyone on next Wednesday. And safe journeys home,
Thanks.
guys.
Thanks, Steve.
See you guys next week.
Just wanted to throw in there, if you want to read more about DrupalCon, I'm doing daily recaps at umfink.com/blog. Yesterday's should be up later on this afternoon. So check that out.
Excellent.
Very cool.
Take care, everyone.
See you.
Imagine music here.